Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello and welcome to Footy JUDGEMO. This is your Rational League. Of course, the weekend roundup where Liverpool are officially in a title race after magnificent and brilliant performance by them. Of course, Chelsea dropped points back to earth again after a lot of Chelsea fans said that, listen, we are here, we're there for it. And Man City are formidable. They're absolutely amazing. They are absolutely out of this world. Erling Haaland, someone said, Terry said that he's the best striker to ever play in the Premier League. Of course, we'll talk about that as well. So hit that like button, people. And Spurs drop points. Spurs lose to Newcastle with Emil Kraft and Dan Burn as the two center backs, which is, I backed Spurs once, never again. Never again. Never, ever again. But we are joined by Joe. Is here. Joe is back on that channel, guys. Just Joe Football Show in the description as well. Rory's not going to be here, but Olo is joining us momentarily. But the guys are here. Nobbins is here, of course, with his Man City props. Tom with the smirk. Absolutely. The smirk is here, of course. And Dan is here. Dan is here to talk about Chelsea, to give you all the realities, to give you all the facts about Chelsea.
Hey, you look particularly fresh today, just thought I'd let you know.
Appreciate that.
No worries. Tom, sort yourself out.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming.
Where do we start? Apologies to Konate from Tom Little, for example.
Why would I apologise to Konate?
He literally performed very well yesterday, didn't he?
But I never said Konate's bad.
You said Konza should start.
Yes, in certain games.
But you don't think he should be the starter?
Konate always needs to play against the top sides because he's a better 1v1 defender. against opposition who are going to sit back and not try and put the game on you, you probably need Quanz's passing. There's a difference. I mean, we can start with us and the fact that we've made it 3 wins from 3, 9 points from 9, no goals conceded. 7 goals scored. Salah involved in 6 of the 7 goals to start the season. Arne Slot's actually made Luis Diaz look like a football with end product, which might be his biggest achievement so far. And the midfield, like Ryan Gravenberch, oh my god.
Why, Tom? Why wasn't we seeing this Gravenberch last season under Klopp? What do you put it down to?
Klopp was a donkey last season.
Well, maybe.
I think it's partly down to a lot of it is down to the system. So we are a lot less hectic now, and I think that suits Gravenberch more. Yesterday he wasn't. It was down to his reading of his game. Why he was so good yesterday? He wasn't like bouncing into tackles and crunching people and this, that, and the other. If you go watch it back, he's just waiting off the shoulder of Mainu more often than not, waiting for Casemiro or Martinez to underhit the pass, and then he'd just walk in front of Mainu and take the ball. And that side of things wasn't really what we did under Klopp. He wouldn't be in the positions to necessarily do that. He wouldn't have the responsibility to do that. I mean, yesterday was brilliant from Slot in terms of tactically. First 10 minutes, it was kind of a bit of a feeling period, figuring out what they were doing. And then he realised that they were going to try and go down our left-hand side so they could switch the ball over and have a 1v1 with Rashford on the trends. So he just moved Szoboszlai over to the left, gave Gravenberch the job to basically patrol the entire right-hand side in the absence of Szoboszlai's being there. And we forced the ball into Casemiro and Martinez, who both were really quite bad in terms of playing the passes, and we killed them off the counter-attacks. It was just a really impressive performance. Going away to Old Trafford is tough at the best of times, especially after last year where the fact that they were so bad last year and we didn't get anything out of the game, both like all the times we played them, and this year it was just a clinical performance, an organised performance, and it's business as usual for Slot. He's not getting dragged into the emotion too much. It just seems to be very clinical in the way he manages, and I think that's what we need. And you can see, I think Mohamed Salah is at the most complete we've ever seen him as a footballer for Liverpool. 3 goals, 3 assists in the first 3 games. Both passes to Diaz yesterday were a joke for different reasons. Another really good finish. He's still just such. I still have him as the best player in the league. This is now going into his 8th season of what is unrivaled consistency. That contract needs to be sorted. I mean, I actually say Trent was one of the quieter performers yesterday, and he was still very good. It's just I'm really enjoying the way we're playing under Arne Slot at the minute. I'm enjoying what it's getting out of the players. Another guy who needs credit as well is Szoboszlai. Like, he has been really important for what we've done because we put a lot of impetus on him to lead the pressing and to cover so much ground, and he's been faultless with it. So, like I said, no complaints. Second in the league with a goal behind City, I think. But the big thing for me is we haven't conceded yet. The reason why we fell away last year was because
I'm going to make a couple of claims. If Liverpool won more title, Mo Salah might have gone down as one of the best ever in the Premier League.
He already
if Liverpool
is down
have won
as that.
more title.
He's one of the
If
goats,
Liverpool... yes, but I think he would be in a conversation with Henry about who's the best. If Liverpool, the quadruple season, for example, and that's the fine margins, right? If Liverpool against Real Madrid scored their goals, and if Liverpool, for example, won the league against Man City, one of these 2 titles that they lost by 1 point, Mo Salah would have been spoken about as with Henry. There would have been a conversation. There would have been a conversation about that.
100% should be in that conversation now anyway. I mean, I don't know the exact numbers, but I know going into the season, he was only like 17 goals and 8 assists or something off of what Thierry Henry achieved in the Premier League. Like, he's good. Injury permitting, he's going to hit that this season. He's going to surpass that this season. Mohamed Salah's only 1 golden boot behind him. He has the same amount of player of the years as him. if we want to do team trophies, which aren't necessarily the greatest comparison, Henry's got more Premier Leagues, but Salah won a Champions League, which Henry couldn't do. I don't think it's outlandish to put them in the same conversation in terms of greatness in this league for what they've achieved. This is Salah's, eighth season now, maybe even ninth season. I don't know exactly. I think it's his eighth of unmatched consistency. No one else in this league has done it. Go through all the stats that come out after every game. I think he's got like 200 odd goals and assists since he joined. Then the next closest is him if you take out his very best season, and then you got to go back even further to find Harry Kane. Like he's breaking all sorts of records. He's putting new ground on what a winger should be in the Premier League in recent years, and I don't think it's outlandish to put him in these conversations for all-time Premier League 11s, to put him into conversations for, one of the greatest attackers this league's ever seen. People will try and downplay him, and I don't know why, because you've got to respect the greatness that you're seeing.
Do you know what it is? A lot of the time is we don't appreciate it while it's here. Salah will get even more flowers once he's left. Do you know what I mean? And time's passed and all.
I wanted to touch on one thing, but Mookie here, thank you, Mookie, for say Arne Slot. I don't know.
Arne Slot. No.
Oh, yeah,
You have to give it its proper thing more.
Let's talk about Gravenberch. I'm just gonna tell you guys something. I actually think Gravenberch is better player than Zubimendi. Actually, that's my opinion on it. I watched Zubimendi 3-4 times. And watching Gravenberch now in preseason and in these 3 games, I actually think he's a better player. And he's younger, he's physically more strong, and he's better. I think he's just better. The problem is the depth, though. But I think he's better, and I'm watching him now. This guy,
it's a different case, immense. Though, I think it's a different sort of thing. So Zubimendi is not as good an individual footballer as Gravenberch, but what Zubimendi would do is he would give McAllister the platform, and I think McAllister's a better footballer than Gravenberch. So what's happening now is, you saw it in the game yesterday, McAllister kind of has to sacrifice his game and his sort of forays into the final third in order to cover whatever Gravenberch is going to do, and to make sure that we aren't getting caught out like we were last season in situations where they put ourselves into 3-on-2s or 4-on-2s. I think that Zubimendi coming in would have basically put McAllister into a Gravenberch type role, what we saw where he becomes the 8 and he's up and down constantly, and you're getting to see that. So I can see why we were after him, but that's not to discredit what Gravenberch has done, because Gravenberch has been pretty much faultless these first 3 games, and yesterday going away to Old Trafford, don't get me wrong, Casemiro's crap performance really helped, but he ran that show, and it was a performance that I haven't seen many midfielders given these type of games, because anyone who tried it, he was just bullying. I can't remember him losing a duel.
It's too early to talk about Liverpool now, like we did with Spurs last season. Is it too early to talk about what is the ceiling for this Liverpool team?
I don't think so, because go on, mate. Sorry.
Oh, so I was going to say that based on like their transfer window, they didn't do much, did they? So the way I'm interpreting it is the Liverpool of this season is basically the same as the Liverpool of last season to an extent. Obviously, different manager, but that's where I think the ceiling is. So I think that this season they will be in the title race. They will still be in it within 8 games to go, 5 games to go. But I do still think that the same issues of last season will take place this season, because they didn't remedy their issues in the transfer market, i.e. midfield. Now maybe Gravenberch will be that guy, but that's just the way I see it. Also Slott's got the thing against him of it's very hard for managers to come to the Premier League and win in their first season. There's only maybe 4 who've done it. It's not easy, it's particularly not easy when you've got Pep City and Arteta's Arsenal. So I don't think it's reasonable to put the pressure on Liverpool and say they're going to win the title season, but they could definitely push City and Arsenal. And I think that next season, maybe only 1 or 2 players, and then, especially if Pep leaves, I think that you could be genuinely in a situation where Slott's Liverpool wins the title before Arteta's Arsenal. I think that actually could be a thing, because I've been really impressed with Slot so far.
I think a big thing is, yeah, we did make transfers, and there are some positions that probably needed additions. But like I was saying throughout pre-season, the biggest addition and the biggest point getter for us this season is having a solid defence again. Whenever we were good under Klopp, it was you go back and look through it, we always had the best defence. We always had the best defence in the league whenever we had really good seasons. The moment that faded, you started to see wobbles and you started to see third place or fifth place or whatever. Arne Slot has fixed the problems that we had. I remember we were going on this show pretty much every week, Nobbins, and going, Liverpool can't, this isn't sustainable for Liverpool. You can't keep winning games to you. You can't keep giving up so many chances and relying on Alisson to save you and then you to go up the other end. In the 3 games that we've played, Xerxes had a header yesterday when we were 3-0 up. Ipswich had a corner or a counter-attack off a corner, and Brentford didn't do anything. So we've given up 2 good chances in 3 games. That's the most important part for me. I think that could be worth anywhere from 6 to 12 points. If we can keep this level of defence going, we can get away in some games with wasting chances and missing chances. Because last year, we didn't get away with it because we'd concede and we'd draw games 1-1 or we'd draw games 2-2. Now I think those 1-1s will be 1-0s. Those 2-0s will be 2-1s because the defence is much more solid and much more structured and the midfield isn't getting ragged everywhere. And ultimately, we're going to have more energy going into the back end of the season because we're not playing this high-octane, heavy metal football. I mean, the last 20 minutes yesterday was like a stroll in the park. I don't really think we sprinted that much. It was just biding the time out. It's exactly what City do really well. Kill off games for the last 20 minutes and save the legs. And now that we're starting to do that, that could really benefit us later on into the season. All these things have to be seen. I don't think we were a million miles away last season. It was just a combination of factors with the injuries and the fitness and the ultimate sort of... We had 2 shitstorms hit at the same time in terms of half the squad was goosed because they played for about 4 months straight and the other half hadn't played for 4 months and were coming back and were so unfit and unsharp. If we can just manage that better, then I think we can really run it close because I do still stand by this. We have more world-class players than Arsenal. We have more game winners than Arsenal. I think only City have more. I can say they've got more genuine world-class players, and world-class players win you games. And winning games gets you close to them titles, and that's what matters. You know, when you've got Salah performing the way he is at the minute, if he can keep this up throughout the season, we could be seeing an all-timer from him. And thank God he hasn't got fucking AFCON mid-season to take him away and write off his season like it has done every other time. If he can just keep this up throughout the season, if Trent can keep it up, if the players can just keep up these levels, I don't see why we can't be in these conversations. I really don't.
It looks
In the next 5 games, they have winnable 5 games, guys. In the next 5 games, Liverpool should go to all these games. The only team that they play is Chelsea, and they play Chelsea at Anfield. If Liverpool win the next 5 games, they will be on the full mark after 8 games. That is a big thing.
City have a tough 2 games after Brentford as well, I swear. Is there Arsenal and Newcastle or something in there? So
Yes,
Is
and also
Newcastle
Inter
away?
in between as well, I think.
yeah.
It is, yes. I think Inter at home, Arsenal at home, Newcastle away, I think, is the order.
Newcastle away is a dodgy one. It depends. To be fair, it depends on if they've got the centre back. If you're up against Emil Kraft and Dan Burn again, I think you might get away with it. But if it's Botman and Shaw, Newcastle away is always a tough place. I mean, for us, it's our real thing is going to kick in around mid-October because I think we play. There's like a run of 7 games where we play Arsenal, Tottenham, City, Real Madrid. Like I know for a fact we play Real Madrid on the Wednesday and then City on the Sunday, which is going to be that's one of them defining weeks that people think about when you look back on successful seasons and go, that was where it really changed.
Manchester City play Inter on Wednesday, and they play on Sunday. They play Arsenal.
Yeah, these are the defining weeks that people will remember in seasons. If we can come out of them games having won both of them, then all of a sudden the momentum you take out of that
I don't think you
so
care
powerful.
about the new format. You wouldn't care about it's not about the Real Madrid game. It's about the other games.
No, the Real Madrid game shouldn't be important for us qualifying, but it's important
Yeah.
because it's a pride thing. You wanna beat the best teams in Europe, especially
I
at
get
home.
what you're saying.
In the same way
Can
that that Arsenal game for you, I assume it's the first Champions League game after the international break.
I don't know.
That's probably not going to define your Champions League season. You could lose
No,
that
we
game.
play City first. We play City first.
You play City. That's what I meant. So you play City first. That's probably not going to define your Champions League run. But when that game comes about, you're defo going to want to win it. You're defo going to want to have that moment where you beat the best team in England at your own ground and stamp your authority on it, because that's really what matters. That's what you want to be seeing from your team back in the Champions League. And I'm a fan of this new format, and I know it's a little bit off topic. I'm a fan of this new format.
I don't like it. It's unfair.
How's
Anyway,
it
we're not
unfair?
talking about that. Because the draw. Liverpool got the easiest draw.
The easiest draw.
Yeah, one of the
How
easiest
did we-
draws. You and Barcelona.
How did we get the easiest draw?
You don't play. You only play the only teams you play, the league winners, are Real Madrid, and you play them at home.
And Leverkusen?
At home or away.
No, I think Leverkusen's at home.
You play at home.
There was like a
Only two teams.
No, Mo, there was like a statistic, like Opta or something, used like fucking stats and calculated we had like the third hardest one. PSG have the
You have
hardest.
the
and then,
third.
yeah, because we play like 7 teams from Europe's top 5
We
leagues.
play Arsenal, Man City, Leverkusen, and RB Leipzig. Leverkusen away, Man City away.
Yeah,
That by itself is just-
we play Real Madrid, Leipzig, Leverkusen,
You
Milan.
play Real Madrid at home. And Leverkusen at home.
You play
The
fucking
two
City
league
at
winners
home.
you play.
You play City
No, no,
at
no.
home, though.
We play City at the Etihad,
So you play Arsenal at home then,
and they will play Leverkusen away.
and then you play Leipzig at home. We have it. So we play Leverkusen at home, Leipzig away, Real Madrid at home, Milan away.
The league winner you play at home. Are you not getting what I'm saying? You play Real Madrid.
It doesn't matter. That's quite irrelevant, to be honest.
Anyway, go ahead. Forget the Champions League. When it comes to it, it's 2 weeks and 2.5 weeks until it comes. I want to ask a question, guys. Do we think Liverpool were so good or Man United were atrocious?
Both.
Yeah.
United are embarrassing, and Ten Hag is literally. I looked at the table of managers. He is, and this isn't exaggeration, the bottom 5 managers in this league.
No,
And
don't say
that's-
that. Don't say that. He's got 2 trophies.
He
man.
is shocking. He's been here for 3 seasons now, and it's the exact same issues that have been plaguing Manchester United.
Nobbins, give him a break. He's not Harry Potter, like he said. He's not Harry Potter. You've got to give him a break.
I can't comprehend how the unwarranted arrogance from this man is unbelievable. He takes no accountability. He clearly is a clueless oaf. He really thought he did something when he asked that journalist, "Oh, could you identify the mistakes for us?" He really thought that was a mic drop. The journalist then proceeds to list every single issue that United have been experiencing for the past 3 years or whatever. It's actually like watching a cartoon. It's like he's trying to get sacked. It's so unusual. And again, he's trying to press high, but he's trying to defend deep. Casemiro was shit in that first half, fine. He brings on another midfielder. Does he change the setup? No. Plays the exact same way. Yeah, Casemiro was bad, but the system itself was also inherently flawed. He didn't change it. He came out and said, "Oh, it's individual mistakes to cost us." No, set up the team to fail. And yeah, of course, there were some bad individual performances from United's players, but if you don't set them up in the right blueprint, then they're going to fail by definition. It's hilarious how bad he is, and he's not going to last the calendar year at this rate. He's shit.
I mean, I don't know why we
over.
are shocked that Manchester United are bad when they planned on sacking this manager before he won an FA Cup, and then they were bullied into keeping him by a small section of their fan base. Most people wanted him gone last season. Most people thought it was time for him to go. I don't know why they kept him on. They mustn't have wanted to keep him on before that cup final. Then they've kept him on and given him another 200 million. And now they're just going to sack him in December, having wasted 200 million. Well, not 200 million. Having wasted 600 million on this fucking guy. And they're going to be stuck in the exact same situation they've been in for the past 7 years. But this time they've just got fucking Ajax 18-19 instead of fucking Jose's boys or Solskjaer's boys.
I can't wait, because I almost feel like sometimes, obviously, if you take an opinion as a fan, you can easily get battered for it. And I watch a lot of content creators, and it's quality to have to see the mental gymnastics some fans who backed him are trying to get out of this situation like it's not his fault. At the end of the day, you've backed the wrong horse. Come out and say it, because the manager is rubbish. The manager is rubbish. You know, I don't know what's changed. Tom's bang on the money. All they're doing is just giving him ex-Ajax players. Do you know what I mean? And the real issue here is he's been there 3 years. Slot's had 3 games. So any person that wants to come back and be like, oh, well, it's because of this, it's because of that. Slot's had 0 players, apart from Chiesa, 3 games, and look at the difference. And all these that are saying, oh, well, there's not managers out there, etc. Well, Slot was out there. Hösler was out there. He's doing a better job and probably could do a better job. It's just that Manchester United fans have this notion that they have to have this massive name. And, you know, these names aren't big enough for us, Ultimately, the manager market, yes, it's not amazing, but there are better people than this guy. There are much better people than this guy. He's terrible. Terrible. I don't get it.
So, a while back, I was with I think I was on one of most streams, and I said that a cup sometimes masks the deficiencies in your team, right? And I said at the time, the league is the ultimate barometer. And this is talking in terms of Arteta versus Ten Hag, right? And this is not to bring it to an Arsenal thing, but I said basically something like not Leicester, what was it called? What's the team that got Wigan? Got relegated but won a cup. And you wouldn't say it was a good season, right? Your league performance is always going to be the barometer, even sometimes more than the Champions League, because we've seen teams in the Champions League like Chelsea finish 4th, but then still win the Champions League, right? So still win the Champions League. I think United fans, who again don't have control on who the manager is, right? We're just fans in the end. I think there was a delusion that happened this summer where the trophy that they won sort of masked all the problems that were still there. And then the signings that came in still masked all the problems that were still there, which is fundamentally, unless he was going to change his style, which he seems very stubborn and unable to do so, and all the players were going to be that much better, which I don't think they're that much better than what they currently had or what they had previously. It was going to be the same thing. So coming back to the game, I don't think Liverpool had to be great, right? They just had to continue doing what they've been doing for the past couple of years. And United just spectacularly just imploded. And the issue you saw is that once one mistake happened, it was a snowball effect. There's no leader on the pitch to turn around and say, actually, all right, let's keep it tight. Let's just get back to basics and try to control the game. It felt like essentially they were just freestyling what they were doing out there. And ultimately, that just caught them out. So there's a lack of leadership in United, which is strange to say when you've got, Bruno, who's a captain. You've got Casemiro, who's played X amount of games in Real Madrid. You've got a World Cup winner in Martinez as well. There should be a level of leadership on the pitch when things go wrong that you can turn around and say, actually, let's just keep it tight. That doesn't seem to exist. And they just made it so easy for Liverpool yesterday. So, yeah, Liverpool didn't even have to sort of turn it up. I thought it was a decent performance from Liverpool. It wasn't like what we've seen in the past from them. And that's just a big indictment on Ten Hag as a manager and the team in general.
I actually fear for Man United as a club from keeping Ten Hag. This rabbit hole that they're going down in, like this way, if they keep Ten Hag this season and they finish 7th or 8th and they get a minus like a negative goal difference again, people keep saying, but we make a lot of money. Sometimes it is not about you making money. It's about the respect you earn from the oppositions, from the other teams. That players don't respect the club. That is what people, we have Old Trafford. We have 80,000 attendance. Joe can speak about this. Leeds were in Champions League semi-finals and they were like a team that is up there. And then you go down one time. I know that people talk about the money. You will never be small because of the money. It's the way you act. It's the respect you earn. And keeping Ten Hag, they keep losing that respect game by game. When you lose to Bournemouth, and I said that last season, by the way, when you lose to Bournemouth at home 3-0, and there are no questions asked, and the manager kept continuing in his job, and then you renew his contract or give him an extra year, you're not acting like a big club. You literally told the fan that is okay. When you lose to your biggest rivals 3-0 at home, embarrassment like this, When your rivals, when suppose like is literally trying to play 5-a-side game, putting people on the ground, like when we play, when you're like 5-6-0 up, you know, I'm gonna do a couple of dribbles before I just tap it into the net. You are losing respect, and you still walk out of the game. And this clown of a manager still attack journalists and say that we played a good game. You're losing respect. You're losing respect in the world of football because you're at the end, the face of the club. And that's what Man United fans don't understand sometimes. Your face of the club is the one that stands in front of the media and talk. It is not Jim Ratcliffe. It is not Omar Barada. At the end, the fans around in the world see one guy talk. It's this guy. They see this guy talk and they think, oh, this club is a joke. They got beaten 3-0. And instead of this guy apologizing to fans, Pep Guardiola gets beat 2-1, says we are sorry for the fans that paid their money to come to the stadium to watch us. This guy got beat in front of 80,000 people, right? And he hasn't apologized. He has,
there
bro,
wasn't
he has
80,000 left at the end.
Yeah, but my point is, he doesn't have, I think this guy have no dignity. He has no dignity because when you are a manager, go get a mutual respect. And I'm sorry to say that. I have seen managers back in the days, the older people from us here, maybe me, Joe, and Olu, right? We saw managers quit, resign, because they had a bad result for their club. I've seen managers do this. But this guy still defend himself.
He also doesn't understand stats. Like, he said, he said something like, oh, if you look at the XG, it's actually quite close. And it's like, all of United's best chances came when Liverpool were 3-0 up, and the game is done. So game state is a thing. So those chances after is irrelevant. So it heavily if you look at like the XG, graph, like time thingy, timeline. That's the word. They've got nothing until it goes to 3-0. So like this guy going, oh, but it was close, therefore the game was close.
And that at that time as well. Yeah,
it's just embarrassing. It's like listening to a child, a bald child.
Yes. Thank you, Robert. How do you? And I'm gonna. This is the last thing I'm gonna say about tonight. I said it yesterday, and the people probably heard it from me. You are responsible for 50 people under you, players, staff. There are people like Jurgen Klopp at the club. They actually said that Jurgen Klopp was responsible. You deliver every other day a lecture to these people in a big room where you explain to them where you're going. How do we expect this guy to deliver a message to the players on the pitch? How do we expect this guy to be the leader of this club? It is, and people tell me, but Omar Barada, this, then. They don't go in the lecture room and tell the players how to play. They don't relay the message. The one that relays the message is this guy. And he can't even answer simple questions from journalists. And that is what is baffling to me, that how is Jim Ratcliffe sitting in the stands and still thinking, oh yeah, we can continue with this guy even for one more game. And I'm saying it, one more game. He should have been sacked in the tunnel. And don't tell me the money or not the money. Bro, Inter sacked Gasperini on the spot. 5th game in, on the spot. Frank de Boer, 8 games on the spot, bro. Wasn't
Ancelotti sacked by Chelsea in a tunnel as well? And like kicked off with Chelsea.
I mean, the thing is with United as well, Van Nistelrooy's breathing down his neck on that bench. I've never seen it work with a manager where they have a set group of assistants they've been with for their whole career, and then all of a sudden they change assistants like that. Like it very much seemed like he was given it's them or you. He's cut them adrift, and now in Van Nistelrooy, defo wasn't just told, "Oh, come be his assistant manager." It was a case of, "Come be his assistant. When he goes, we'll give you the job." Because he was a successful manager at PSV.
Well, yeah.
So why would he leave that to become an assistant at United? He wouldn't.
He got the Burnley. He was close to signing for Burnley. You know what I mean? He got that Burnley job, like who'd just been relegated, but then obviously changed tact and went to be a coach at Man United.
Bet he's glad he didn't fucking accept that. Now the way they're going, fucking
no. I think what you're saying, it does have weight to it, man. He's definitely been brought in. It'll be give it root to the end of the season, and then we'll see how he gets on. That's what he's there for. He's not being brought in to help.
Are Man United always going to be a big club, guys? always.
Yeah, they will.
Is that a given? Is that a
'cause-
given?
What's your measurements? No, wait. What's your measurement for a big club?
I
And I
told
hate
you,
them.
measurements is respectable. Is being respectful. Is being respectable within your top six. Is having weight in the league. Is having an effect on the league. That is having effect in Europe. Even Barcelona at their downtime, they still go play Barcelona. They're a big team. You fear them. Is Man United? Will Man United keep going down to the point that we're going to be talking about Man United as, well, you're not scary anymore. Yes, you make a lot of money. You make a lot of money because your stadium, because you're a big fan base, but you aren't acting like it. And by the way, they're spending the money. They are spending the money.
I'd argue that if you're going just by that measurement, i.e., teams rock up to Old Trafford and there's no fear factor, I think that ship is already sailed. I think now most teams can go to Old Trafford expecting that they'll give them a game, and could possibly there's a high probability they could leave there with something, right? Whether it's a point or 3 points, because we've seen so many teams who have broken their record in terms of losing at Old Trafford in the past 2-3 years. They've actually broken that record and won at Old Trafford, and even some teams are now having unbeaten records going to Old Trafford, which is again a big indictment of where Man United are. So if you're going by a Man United, a club where smaller teams, in quote unquote, fear going to, I don't think that's the case. But in terms of just the global fan base, the name recognition, the fact they're on the stock market, you can never take that away from them. They will still be that most supported club in England / maybe almost.
But
the world.
I'm gonna counter this with a thing, and I kept saying this last season, and people didn't believe me. Globally in the world, there are more kids now that are Man City fans than Man United.
True.
Why do people don't understand that there are cycles? We're old. I'm 39 years old. Back in the days, there were no kids that were Liverpool fans until they won the Champions League. Because in the 90s and in the early 2000s, before they won the Champions League, they weren't in the picture. When you open your TV, it is not the most watched team, Liverpool, right? It was Manchester United. It was Arsenal with Henry. It was Real Madrid. It was even Borussia Dortmund, Juventus, Milan. Even, by the way, Inter, until we started getting the Ronaldos, the Zamorano. You remember the Djorkaevs? People started, we had these guys have Roberto Baggio. These guys have R9. And we start winning. It's generations. You know what I mean? Imagine 10 years from now, there will be the kids that are 10 years old now that they grow up. I go to the mosque in America. Kids are wearing Holland shirts, Kevin De Bruyne shirts, Foden shirts, Salah shirts. And even now there is Saka shirts. I don't see any kid. And wallahi, this is being honest. And I don't know how about you guys in England. I don't see kids wearing Man United jerseys anywhere. And there is a lot of Man United fans, and you guys live in England, from London, right? Do you believe the new kids in London will support Manchester United?
No, their kit's dead as well.
There's a notable like you bang on the money with the City stuff, because I see it all the time now. Like where I live in the northeast, and there is a hell of a lot of City shirts, which if they weren't at the top, they would never be, right? They would never be that.
Yes.
You know, of course. Grealish I still see Grealish shirts all the time, by the way, even in the new shirt. I just think he's that type of guy that people fall in love with. But no, I'm serious, man. Yeah. But yeah, there is something in it. Football's cyclical, right? Football goes in cycles. Liverpool have, but I just think Man United at that different level that
Too big to fail.
they will always have a cycle again. It's a bit like Arsenal, right? Arsenal had some banter years, but they were still a big club. And Arsenal are a big club, and I don't see Arsenal shirts in the northeast. Just putting it out there.
But they
we're
have
very
preset.
London.
But that's a
They're
thing,
London,
guys.
very London.
Arsenal
We're
had
very
to
London,
very
Arsenal had to press reset to start over after Wenger with Arteta. This team is brand new.
Yes,
The only guy that is left is Martinelli.
That's a different thing now, then, because United have needed a reset for about 5 years. But they didn't stop. They will be a big club even if they reset.
Yeah.
To stop being a big club, it would take a fucking massive thing for United.
10
the
years.
global fan base.
Tom, I'm gonna say
Longer,
10 years.
longer than 10 years.
So
Longer than 10 years.
I was going to actually. There was a point that was made, which I just thought about now. So United's growth in the 90s came from the likes of David Beckham, and then you had Ronaldo as well, right? Global superstars. You look at Arsenal, you can link it to Thierry Henry. You look at Liverpool now, you can link it to Mo Salah. You look at Man City, you're talking about the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, Haaland, like global superstar names. Same with Chelsea, Drogba, Lampard, and so on and so forth. At United, there isn't a superstar. There isn't that talismanic. What's the word I'm looking for?
Figure.
Talisman. Oh, yeah, figure anymore, right? And growth in terms of things like shirt sales and things like that always linked to a superstar, like a player who you just go head and above, like they're the face of the club, and in some instances, the face of football. You think of Beckham. Beckham was selling glasses and perfume and so on and so forth. United don't have that anymore. So there is a risk where all the other clubs are actually catching up in terms of how from a global fan base, how they're seen. But like I said before, if you're just taking it on the pitch, I think that ship has sailed, and it's going to take a while to rebuild that fear factor.
Well, I think it looked like it was Rashford, didn't it? And then obviously Rashford's just fallen, like, I don't know, just fallen off the face of a cliff. I just can't understand what's happened there. But I think, what was it, Ten Hag's first season? It looked as if he was going to be the guy to like lead Ten Hag's Man United forward, and then it's just not happened.
No, yesterday he was horrendous.
I just don't get it. Unless he's just completely fallen out, I don't understand how a player can drastically change that much.
He looks like he's got no... I mean, it was yesterday, there was a point where they were on the counter-attack and he was basically 1v1 with Canate, and it was a chance for him to sort of knock it past Canate, run onto it and be through one-on-one. And he put his foot on the ball, turned back and passed it to Martinez, and the crowd fucking ripped into him. And then when Ten Hag subbed off Garnacho instead of him and brought Ahmad on and debuted all that, I think I said it last summer, and I said it a couple of years before as well, and he came back and had a really good season. But I do still stand by this. Rashford probably needs to leave Man United to refine himself, because that environment that he's in is not conducive of one for success for him. There is way too much pressure on him. He needs... I likened it to what Jesse Lingard did at West Ham, and then Lingard made the mistake of going back. Yeah. He needs to go away to another club where he can have a fresh slate, where he can be away from the pressures of what Manchester United is on his shoulders.
Do you think that's leaving England?
We need to get Meno out of that club as well.
Yes, I said it yesterday. He should run for his life.
Yeah,
this kid should... I know the love for Manchester United. He should run for his life. And this notion that you're the guy who's going to bring us back. The board aren't acting like this, bro. The board aren't acting like it. Still Ten Hag is there. They're back.
I mean, it was interesting because this whole summer, the whole thing was Ten Hag has less say on transfers. And this is like, how many ex-Ajax players were bought?
All of them.
Mazraoui. Like, Delict had a decent game yesterday, and Mazraoui's been all right. But that is still beyond the point. How many of his ex-players has he bought? It's going to get to the point where when they sack him, the new manager's going to come in and have a team of players that have worked for Erik ten Hag twice, while still having players who were there under Ollie, and still technically having a couple of players who played under Mourinho. And technically one played under fucking Van Gaal.
Is it your
I've asked quite
a
lot of United fans that question, and they don't think that's an issue. I can't understand how it's obvious the writing's on the wall for Ten Hag within the next 6 months, I think. So they're going to be left with this whole Ajax 2.0 system, which we've seen be an issue before with obviously the Jose Mourinho players and the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer players go stale at Man United when a new manager came in. But so many Manchester United fans I've spoken to don't think it's an issue. But I don't see these players working under the next manager that Ten Hag's brought in. I just don't see it.
They didn't work at the other big European clubs they played for.
This is what I'm saying. And Manchester United fans are denying that this is an issue. But for me, to back a manager who's in such a risky position like Ten Hag, with players that have only ever worked under him in a completely different system and different club. Sorry, my voice is...
I mean,
yeah,
it's
just,
like
it
that
just
as well.
baffles
Like
me.
so many of them, like Anthony, 90 million. They're not going to sell him, and no manager can work with him.
Tag, right? Because even like you're not even getting the performance out of Anthony at all. Like you're not even getting 10 million worth out of Anthony at the moment. So when the next manager comes in, this bloke's not going to work. It doesn't matter how much they paid for it. Like if they'd overpaid by a couple of million or whatever, we probably wouldn't judge it as harshly. But they overpaid actually ridiculously. But they're still not got a player here that's able to produce for any amount of money. The guy's woeful in the Premier League, and he doesn't suit it. And they don't believe it's an issue going forward. The majority of Manchester United fans I spoke to be honest, I find Manchester United probably the most boring topic in English football because it's been going on for years now. And until the Glazers are out of that club completely, by the way, I don't see it changing. And I worry if they do sack Ten Hag, the rumours of who the next manager might be doesn't indicate that there'll be any sort of change for Manchester United and their fortunes, even though they've won a couple of trophies that Ten Hag won't let go of. It's the actual day-to-day running of the club and what they're seeing every weekend that's got to be the real issue for Manchester United fans, I think.
Who's breathing? Mike?
Was it me with this?
Yes.
Sorry, mate.
I'll
move it away.
Loud as well.
Sound like Darth Vader. Sorry.
None of it.
But anyway,
none of the none of the transfers made in Ten Hag's tenure. The best one's been Martinez, and even then, that's a stretch. Mount cost 60 million. Shit. Anthony, shit. Eriksen, he was free, and they could argue that was a waste of time. Casemiro was awful. Who else did they sign? Malassi is dead, so who knows where he is? That was 20 million that was down the drain.
I thought you meant he was for a second.
Onana,
because he's like disappeared, isn't he?
Onana's gone. And then
Gorbridge yesterday said, Onana just can't keep. He just can't keep. He lost it yesterday in the goal. Like, why is he always on his line?
Mo, you're an Inter fan.
I looked at the goals again. Bro, the guy was amazing. We reached.
Oh, you rated him.
Ask Nobbins about the Champions League final. The guy is brilliant for Inter.
Yeah, but
the guy was
I still didn't think he was
an
unbelievable keeper, though. I thought he was just brave with his feet.
No, he was great for us. The saves, bro. He saved us. He made mistakes in the beginning of the season, and for the last 25 games, bro, he won us points by being amazing. I don't know what happens.
Do you know what that is, though? That's because you had a really solid defense, which wouldn't put him in 1v1s. He's not a good 1v1 keeper. Go look at the goals that we scored yesterday.
1-on-1. He was standing wrong for Salah's goal. It was very open. What is this, bro? He was on the line, bro. How do you
I was going to say, there's way more issues.
And the ball is coming to Salah, and you're on your line, bro. Bro, Salah just tapped the ball into the near post, and it swerved into the net, and Onana's looking at it, diving for the camera. Bro, what is this?
Also, this whole thing about, well, it's okay if he's not as great in goal because he's so good with the ball at his feet. He's not even that good. Like, how many times did he overhit the fucking ball?
Yes. David Raya, like, the guy was on the dot. Bro, Pep Guardiola literally said in the final, we couldn't press regularly and normally like we do, because when we press, Onana plays it behind our lines, between the lines. So we needed to hold a little bit. The guy literally can't pass the ball anymore. Just can't. He lost it.
I don't even know United have next, but if I was a better man, I'd put my money on them losing. Like they're in that bad a state, and I think yesterday was a real turning point. I do still think that a lot of fans didn't agree with the decision to keep him after the cup final. I think yesterday was a turning point for a lot of other ones where they went, what have we done? Why have we done this? Very reminiscent of when we kept on Brendan Rodgers, because you knew the time was up, and now all you've done is just wasted a bunch of money on players that probably aren't going to work in the next system for a manager that isn't even going to be here before the end of the season. And you might have to start the whole process all over again.
Will join Mourinho at Galatasaray.
Mourinho's at Fenerbahce.
Okay, so it's not Mourinho then. Who's then? Anyway, listen, moving on from Manchester United, there is a super chat here for Nobbins. It's like, yes, world-class players win games. just like Matthias Nunes. Does he mean Sir Matthias Nunes? Is that what he mean? What you mean? I think so. Nobbins, talk to me about Manchester City. Talk to me about Manchester City. I just formidable.
What do you want to know? What do you want to know?
What changed? He looks different. Even Jack Grealish looked different. He looks more direct.
What has, I mean, it's early days, but so far what's changed is that City have now decided to play the ball to their elite generational striker more so than not. Like, even the season where Haaland broke the Premier League goal scoring record, we didn't use him properly. Like, we basically just turned him into a poacher, really. Or we didn't use him optimally, rather. Whereas now, that's exactly what we're doing. We've partnered him with, direct pacey wide players. We've put De Bruyne into positions where he can utilize his long distance chance creation. And what we're also doing is we are pushing and pinning the opposition in. So it means that they can't even counterattack on us as much unless we make a mistake in the press. There's still some issues there, obviously, but it's a very high risk, high reward strategy. It's not really like what Pep's done the past couple of seasons, but so far it's working. And yeah, Haaland's like now broken the record for most goals scored by a Premier League player after 3 games or something. Like it was Edin Dzeko's record, and now it's Haaland's record. Yeah, we're just looking really good, to be honest.
He's annoying.
Yeah, and
he's a boring bastard, is what he is. Yeah, well done. You score goals. Now fucking give some to others. When are you gonna let Doku have a chance? When are you gonna let Savio have a chance? Not everyone wants to see Haaland goals.
I do. He's in my fantasy team. I don't mind it.
Good point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, this is, again, I think I mentioned it.
I know you touched on it. De Bruyne playing much deeper, I think, is a real important thing for City this year because it's going to give Haaland space to run into. I thought as well, he's been very good for the past however many fucking years. Bernardo Silva was again very good and is very important to what City do. But the wide plays and Kevin De Bruyne's new role and having pacey wide plays is the difference because now you can pin teams back. Now you can really pin opposition fullbacks especially back and give De Bruyne the chance to create in them wider half spaces where that crossing thing that he can do is a joke.
Can I ask Noble the question? Do you fear more Arsenal or Liverpool this season?
My thoughts on it hasn't changed. I think it'll be the same as last season. I think that Liverpool will do what they did last season and they will be very good. And again, that they'll be in it. But I still think that fundamentally they are 1 or maybe 2 players off, properly challenging. I think they'll finish 3rd, but they'll finish way above 4th and they'll finish just below 2nd. I don't think it'll be a solid gap between the two. Arsenal are still... Sorry, go on.
I was going to ask a question. And it's sort of based on... I've got this thing where I don't know how true it is, but I've just looked a little bit and I think it is true. Don't Man City always start the season like crazily well, and everyone sort of goes over the top in terms of being like unbeatable, and then somewhere. No, because I looked at last season. You started 6-1, didn't you? Against
yes, well, but that's why it was such a surprise because normally we start the season slowly. That's why last season was so weird. It's like why are we winning all these games? We normally lose to Community Shield, for example.
Yeah,
we normally start the season quite slowly. Whether even without results, you could even say performance, but so far this season, we've had both. We've had the results and we've had the performances. What normally happens is, City, I mean, it's what happened with Arsenal the past 2 seasons and Liverpool last season as well, is that City are lethargic in the first half of the season and then come like February, March, they kick into gear and they win like every single game or whatever. So it's like the opposite. So it's quite scary. But I imagine if you're a rival fan.
Good for us.
The whole way of beating City has been... You have to be pretty much faultless to start the season and build a big enough gap so when they do their late season fucking climb, it's too big for them to make up. Arsenal had it 1 year where it was 8 points. We had it 1 year where it was 7 points. The only time someone beat them to a title was when we had a 22-point gap by January, and it was kind of a case of they're never going to catch that. If it's within 10, I'd say even within 12. City will catch up because this is what they do. The way you beat them is by building a big enough gap. And if they don't give you the opportunity to build up a gap on them early in the season, well, it's long. It's very long.
And I was just particularly happy with that West Ham result as well, because that should have been a really, and it was in stretches, a really tricky game, because we didn't have any Savio, who started the season so well. So Doku had to go out to the right, and by now it's clear that he's much better on the left. Grealish had to start. There's obviously question marks about how his form would be. Rodri's still not in. Foden's still not in. You got Rico Lewis, who's fantastic, but he's up against Kudus, who's a wonderful player, and it was brilliant. So that's why I was also just particularly happy, because going away to West Ham's not easy.
I actually think Man City will win the treble probably this season. Even Mbappe doesn't look like he is there, like with Real Madrid. Community Shield curse.
He scored 2 last night, Mo.
It's the first goals, huh? It's the first goals for him.
He looked all right.
Half of them were penalties. Chill out.
Community Shield curse will bite Chelsea. Will bite City this season. It's the hope. It's the hope that kills you, people. I promise you, it's the hope that kills you. I changed my prediction. I think City will win the title. Like, you can't just go against it. They are favorites. They added Gundogan, flawless. Came on the pitch, looked like he's never left. Passed the ball around, looked like he never left. Jack Grealish is played very, very well. Played like Jack Grealish of Aston Villa. And just Pep Guardiola looks like he's enjoying himself. Hopefully it's his last year at Manchester City, but I don't think anybody's beating Man City. You can beat them in one game. I don't think you're beating them to the league, to be honest, unless something dramatic happens. Okay, Rodri's not even playing, people, and Man City are still dominating the pitch. Foden is not playing, and they're creating abundance of chances as well. So I'm sorry. And also Arsenal, which is a good segue to Arsenal, or we start with Chelsea a little bit before we go to Arsenal, because I know it's going to be a little bit long. Chelsea back to earth again. Has anybody watched the game for Chelsea?
Me.
I watched the goals.
I know you did a watch along, Dan. So let me know what you think.
I'm just really, I'm just really confused. I was told all this stuff about Maresca. I watched footage at Leicester about Maresca and the type of football that I was expecting to see, and I haven't seen it yet. And I'm seeing a lot of rotations that I don't think are helping the team. I actually think there's a hindrance right now with the obsession of players rotating in and out of possession into different roles. And I think a couple of times when we've been counter-attacked, it's caused an issue. I'm seeing a lack of experience, which we all know is there, but obviously Servette midweek was an issue, I think, where experience came into play. I think the Crystal Palace game, honestly, after the second half, we saw Glasner probably get the better of Maresca tactically. Maresca's obsession with movement, like I was saying about the positions and the changing of where players play, created a huge hole in midfield, where Glasner then put 2 midfielders tight together as they started to pick up the ball, where Caicedo and Enzo had completely vacated that space. And it became an issue for Chelsea in terms of also trying to break down Palace's 5-man defence, because as soon as we got close to their sort of 18-yard sort of line box, they were closing down in twos and threes, making it incredibly tight and compact. And Chelsea really couldn't work an opportunity that was of much weight in the second half. An okay first half, but not one to get carried away with. And in the whole season, I've probably seen a good 45 minutes against Wolves, and the rest been pretty mediocre. So the fact that people were coming out saying we're going to win the league and we're going to make a title challenge and stuff is just absolutely ludicrous. And it sort of just shows the type of people that you're listening to forming those opinions, I think, unfortunately. And there seems to be a lot on Chelsea's fan base that exists on Twitter, I can tell you that.
Do you know, Dan, I saw something in this game, which is I saw what Olu was talking about earlier. The roughness. They were roughing Cole Palmer. They were roughing Enzo. They were roughing Pedro Neto. And that took them out of the game. I saw Cole Palmer doing this with his arms, asking the referee intervene. And Crystal Palace was just being so rough. I know that Hughes might have got sent off, should have maybe had a second yellow. But apart from that, Crystal Palace was just roughing Chelsea players. Enzo Fernandez got dispossessed by being roughed off the ball, just, shoved off the ball, and the player would take the ball and run the other way. Maybe that as well. And also, I'm just doubling down the experience. No one at Chelsea was calming people down. No one. Because if Enzo is your captain and he is rattled, like Enzo Fernandez at Manchester United, who's calming people down? Who's calming Madueke, who missed a couple of chances? Who's calming Palmer, who kept complaining to the referee about the roughness? And that is the problem with Chelsea's squad.
If only they had a
There is no
Thiago Silva.
experience.
If only they still had the Thiago Silva to lead them out, I for one, am shocked that getting rid of all your experienced players and just bringing in more youngsters has led to an inexperienced squad that doesn't seem to handle pressure very well. Who would have thought that? Who would have thought that a team of young players, can't necessarily handle the trials and tribulations because they lack the experience and haven't been through the situations before? I mean, I for one, I'm shocked. I cannot believe that. We got the lovely news today as well that Chelsea are selling another player, that Angelo right winger, to Saudi. So there's another one of them long-term future players off the books. I said it summer. I'll say it now. I don't see the project. If I was a Chelsea fan, I wouldn't know what the project is. You've got some good players. That's not to say you don't have good players, but I don't see what the plan of the project is, because getting rid of all your experience isn't conducive for on-the-pitch success. Only buying 24-year-olds and younger is not conducive for on-the-pitch success. You want players to get experience. Where are they going to learn the experience from? They're not going to learn all the tricks of the game without having played with players and trained with players who already know the tricks of the game. It's the reason why every squad has
the manager himself,
players.
Tom, is young. The manager himself
The
is
manager,
not Carlo Ancelotti. It's not Carlo Ancelotti.
I also think there's a bit of a respect thing as well. Some of these younger players have played under some of the greatest managers in the modern era, and now they're getting managed by Pep's big boy, who couldn't hack it at Parma.
Yeah, and has absolutely shown that his man management skills to probably the most deserving players of respect in Chelsea's team have been absolutely disgraceful. Conor Gallagher.
He just fucking slags everyone off.
Ben Chilwell's won a European Cup. Maresca hasn't. And he speaks like he's done it all. And I genuinely think there's a point where you have to sort of praise someone's honesty. But there's also a point where the man management thing is completely gone because of not being able to be anything but honest. And he's basically turning around to players like Ben Chilwell, telling them they don't fit into his system. He's telling Raheem Sterling that he doesn't fit into his system, and then proceeds to play Mykhailo Mudryk, who, like, Raheem Sterling must be sat there looking at that thinking, how on earth are you playing Mudryk? What's the difference between me and him? This guy repeatedly makes incorrect decisions.
This is why. Sorry, Dan.
Go on, Joe. Go on.
He's not making the decisions, man. We discussed this on Signup channel the other day, and me and Mo got back. To an extent, but you can't tell me he's looked at Sterling and said, "You're rubbish. I want Mudryk." I look at Mudryk and think, "Oh yeah, he's the baller that I need." Come on.
Yes and no, but I do think if Maresca had turned around and said, Sterling is absolutely key to my project, they would have kept him. The reason they've just given Jackson a huge extension is because Maresca must have said Jackson's good enough for me. So I think if he'd have been vocal,
or was that because they didn't?
Well, no. Jackson's contract was in the works already. I think that's the whole idea: is that players that they're going to be placed on lower wages, and if they perform to an acceptable level, they'll keep rewarding them. Kind of like the Tottenham model.
So he signed a new 9-year contract with improved wages.
I don't know if it's an extension to make it 9 years, but yeah, it'll be
his contract runs until 2033 now.
Yeah.
Yes, it was 2029 or 2030, and now it's 2033.
Yeah.
Is that with improved wages?
It's got to be with improved wages. They wouldn't sign one without.
Are they crazy?
Well, it's not, because Jackson, in terms of wages, was on quite a low amount in terms of.
I'll be dead in 2033, bro. But Jackson is still going to be at Chelsea.
Yeah, but that's not. So I don't believe they're doing that to secure the player for that long. I think they're doing it to secure the player's value in terms of a contract.
What if the players think? Okay, then what if the player?
Well,
which we have seen it many times.
Look at Mudryk and Enzo Fernandez right now. They've been purchased for exceptionally high fees, and they're not going to recover anywhere near that if Chelsea were to try and sell them now. So they're in a very difficult position. But if it say next year a club, Chelsea, go and buy a striker, and someone is after Jackson, and they want to buy Jackson, he's now 10, 20 million pounds more than what he was this point this summer, because he's signing a new extension that will be worth however many more millions that would have to be paid off. That's the whole reason they extend contracts. The contracts aren't worth the paper that they're written on. I think that's the old saying, isn't it? And I think that's
do you want to know how weird this is listening to? I'm basically hearing that Chelsea are really fucking good when it comes to contracts and when it comes to winning the logistics of football. But when it comes to actual football, what people watch, they are really quite shit, all things considered. At a large number of pieces of the game, they really lack quality. But you know what? They are unmatched when it comes to amortizing fees over a set amount of time and finding all the loopholes to maximize financial security.
I disagree with you, actually.
I
disagree with you completely. I think they are a good. I think they have a good team. I disagree with you.
I think
what happened yesterday.
Good individuals,
they could have been
3-0.
They could have been 3. Then you could have been 3-4-0 up just by the first
weren't.
And that comes. What Tom is talking about, the experience. You're one experienced player away, right, to lead this team. The problem is you have Fofana, Colwell, Kukurea, who I think is an absolutely horrendous football player, in my opinion. Malagusto's young, Caicedo's young, Enzo's young, Neto, I think he plays on his own game, Palmer, Jackson, and Madueke. Who's leading this team? No one.
Why are we shocked that Chelsea are wasteful low? When they scored 6, they had an XG of 1. They massively overperformed against Wolves. They've now evened back out to average again, pretty much.
They exposed the weakness that was there in Wolves' side, and Madueke's finishing was as clinical as I've ever seen it in a Chelsea shirt, and quite rapidly declined back down over the last 2 games. So I just don't understand where the hype came from, because the type of football where we're seeing success is completely against what Maresca's wanting to do with this side as well. Chelsea have looked at their best in transition, which they did last year under Poch, and they do currently this year under Maresca. But Maresca comes out and states that isn't how he wants his team to play. He said it yesterday. He said if we play a certain way, then we'll win football matches. Won't be in the transition. It'll be where we're holding on to possession and trying to create our chances. When we've come up against teams that are in a low block and a mid block, even this season, and it's a small sample size, but Chelsea aren't breaking those teams down. We only look dangerous. Even the goal yesterday, 4 players on the counter attack from Palace losing possession. We didn't break down Palace's low block. I think we did it twice in the whole game. And Noni Madueke forced Henderson to a really good save. And I think there was one towards the end where I think Levi Colwell had an opportunity. Maybe that's from a set piece. But we look woeful from set pieces, and we brought in a set piece coach. There's big issues at Chelsea in terms of on the pitch. And all I can say is we don't look anywhere near where we finished last season. And that wasn't that great, but it was good enough to probably make a challenge for Europe. And I think we've made massive step backwards.
So I was going to say a couple of things. First of all, on the whole amortization thing that someone is spouting off, you can only do it over a certain period of time. It's an accounting practice. The length of contract after you give another person a contract doesn't affect amortization. So, like, it's the buzzword football fans started jumping onto. In accounting, it's a standard accounting practice. We're not going to bore you about that. But also, there's a reason why football teams who know about amortization, who know about the finance of football, never give non-year contracts. Like, it's something they could have done a long time ago, and they chose not to, because for this exact reason, you buy a player. I mean, Chelsea had Winston Bogarde, who's a great example of a player who got injured, and then he refused to come back to Chelsea. He stayed over in Holland and got paid until the end of his contract. And legally,
he flew every day.
Well, yeah, flew for training, and then went back, but just didn't play. They couldn't get him off the books. No one could take the contract off. Football teams know not to do this, because in America, where there's non-guaranteed contracts, it works. In the UK, in our football, where all contracts are guaranteed, that doesn't work. So this model that they've put in, it sounds smart, and it might be smart, but so far it doesn't look smart, because you already seen players such as Mudryk and even Enzo, who most people some of us were saying already that he doesn't suit the league. It's starting to show that he doesn't suit the league, and now you have to shift 115 or 105 million, whatever it is it costs, plus the wages away. But when it comes to having young players on the pitch, I mean, Arsenal did it. There's a time when we had the youngest team in the league, right? But what was important was that in the midfield, there was a guy called Xhaka who, as much as we slagged him off, and I go back to the what was it, the all or nothing, what just happened there? We go back to the we go back to All or Nothing series, and you saw how much of an influence he was on the younger players, right? And you might say maybe he's not the best example in terms of how he loses his head, but having someone in that midfield, and Mo knows this, I've said this all the time about the size of the midfield, the experience of the midfield. I think you're starting to see that in terms of, unless Chelsea gets stronger, Chelsea gets, I don't want to say bigger, because people, will say someone like Caicedo can be physical without having to be a 6'4" player. But unless they become like a team that imposes their will, which they, to be fair, they kind of did in the first half. But the minute Crystal Palace got that goal, it sort of reverted to, oh crap, what do we do? And like as Mo said, you had players getting barged off the ball and sort of looking up rather than people sort of saying, right, let's make this into a physical battle. So I think Chelsea are going to have that up and down season. They're not. Chelsea fans might think they're better. I think on paper the names of the players look good. I think the reality might be something totally different.
Well, I think it will be a roller coaster. I think the first 3 games probably suggest a pretty accurate prediction of how Chelsea's season will go. The fact that we've won, drawn, and lost, I think that probably represents how it might go. There'll be games where we should have done better. We should have won yesterday, and I do think that at times maybe better quality of player does finish their chances yesterday in that game. But also at the same time, Henderson had a really good game in goal for Palace. And Palace really didn't create too much. So I think that's why Chelsea's defence looked okay yesterday. I think it probably could have done better in terms of how it was set up for the free kick that initially led to Eze's goal, which people have failed to focus on. But the way we set up for the free kick that Eze initially took spread the defence so wide and so deep into our own box that by the time the ball came out to Eze, for him to have an opportunity, our defence hadn't stepped up. And that's probably down to not having a leader in the defence that's vocal enough to make them step up there. And that's something that hasn't been addressed. So Sanchez as a goalkeeper should be doing that as well, being aware that he needs to command his box, and he didn't do that either. So there are some issues. My biggest sort of thing with the squad at the moment is that I don't think it's a team. I think there's so many new additions that won't know each other, that don't understand each other's game yet. I think that creates a bit of an issue. I don't think they're of a level of understanding on the pitch of each other yet that is good enough to win games of football. I see too much individualism. I saw Nkunku hold onto the ball for too long yesterday. João Felix, Pedro Neto at times, Madueke at times, Cole Palmer at times. And I think that will come with having so much competition for so many little spaces, for so few spaces in a team. Players will come on and it'll be like a trial game where these players are constantly being judged because they don't want to be the next player that's banished if they don't perform. And I think that's what it might be, is that whilst they're fighting for these places, players will focus on themselves and be individuals instead of the benefit of the team. And I think that's the trap that Chelsea have sort of fallen into in terms of the recruitment that they've made over the last few years, is that I think they've signed an awful lot of individuals rather than focus on building a team. And we all know that teams win matches.
Dan, can you expect there to be a semblance of continuity and patterns and all this sort of stuff with having so many players to choose from? Like every single game, it's like, what's he going to go with this week? Who's going to play where this week? Whereas I think
there's Sancho as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Which again, people keep saying that he's going to cook at Chelsea and all this sort of stuff. Well, I don't know. I'm not so sure. I don't understand how. If we look at all the top sides, they all have a sense of, right, we know this is going to be the 4. We know this will be the midfield 2. Do you know what I mean? Whereas at Chelsea, I don't think anybody's got a clue what he's going to pick week in, week out. And will he ever be able to get
I don't think he knows what he's going to pick.
Well, this is the point. Will he ever be able to get to a place where he's got a settled 11? Because if he does, those that are sat on the bench will be saying, where the fuck's my minutes? And then it becomes a bigger issue, and then we get statements from players and all this sort of stuff. I just think it's destined to fail. And
I actually disagree with all of you. I disagree. Joe, he literally knows. Starting 11 for Chelsea is Sanchez, Colwell, Fofana, Reece James is fit, not fit Malo Gusto, Cucurella and Vega. In the middle, Lavian Caicedo or Enzo. This is a lot of managers do this, right? Up top, Madueke, Jackson Palmer, Neto. I think it's very simple.
So
The
then,
sub for
so
Madueke
then
is Sancho.
Jadon Sancho, like Sancho doesn't play then. Sancho rides bench.
No,
as backup.
I said that, and I think he knows that. Unless Madueke drops stinkers, I think he actually, and also I think actually, even if Madueke drops stinkers, he's gonna shift Palmer and play Felix. He looks so convinced. Guys? The starting lineup
place
for
for
Chelsea.
Nkunku. No place for
I was going to
Nkunku
ask
at all.
about
No,
Nkunku.
Nkunku at the current moment, by the way, he's sub for Jackson. Everyone knows that now.
How
It's
about
already
James?
No,
known.
because Nkunku's not a 9, and he hasn't played as a
No.
9 really under Maresca.
And that's
I
why,
think,
and that's why
I
he's a
think
sub for
Madueke
Jackson.
initially
Dan.
probably. I don't think initially Madueke was in his plans to be his starting sort of wide player on the
And then
on
he
the
got
right.
a fucking hat trick.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened to him. I think this
He
is
was
the issue,
electric
isn't it?
yesterday. He was very electric yesterday.
He
Madueke.
did,
was
he
so
did
direct
fantastically
and
well.
electric.
He did fantastically well for the goal, but I do think he was wasteful in front of goal when he had his own
He
opportunity.
came on the right foot, and it was a brilliant save from Dean Henderson. It's a brilliant pass by Enzo, and then he missed the ball, and then he missed the other chance. But the fact that Madueke now is your go-to guy, like players look for Madueke all the time, and he takes his man, and now he's making better decisions. I can see where this is going with Madueke as a winger. You know, I've seen this. I'm not going to say that Madueke is amazing now, but people need to understand this Madueke is much better even than the Madueke of last season.
The problem is, Mo, and I think the point where I struggle to see, I get what you're saying. They have good depth, they have a good squad, and there's got good rotation.
No,
My
they
point
don't have a
is-
good squad. Don't get my point wrong. I never said they have a good squad because
Well,
in
you
the
were going,
midfield,
you were going through most positions and going that he can be the backup there, he can be the backup
but they
there, so
don't.
it's not a problem there.
You don't even. For me, Tom, one of the main positions on the pitch, which is Liverpool has, Man City has, is to have a competent centre back that can lead and have a competent goalkeeper.
Mhm.
You have neither. Which is
But-
why everyone was screaming, address this in this window.
But
They must
my
find that
point
you're-
is, my point is, certain Chelsea fans have said that, we've got really good depth. Look at the attack, and then you list off all their attackers, and then you just went through there and said that the starting attack is Madueke, Palmer, Jackson, Neto.
Yes.
My thing is the reason why City, and I'm just using City as an example because they're the team that everyone goes to, are praised for years for having such good depth and were able to keep that level of depth was because the players that were starting were recognised world-class players who had been doing it year after year after year, and they were being managed by an all-time great who has respect in the game. The way you've said it, and I don't disagree that is Chelsea's best performing front line, but the way it is, you've got Jadon Sancho, Joao Felix, Christopher Nkunku, 3 players who cost close to a combined 100 million quid, 3 players who were on minimum collectively 300 grand a week, players who have been in Champions League, players who've been challenging for titles, players who've been doing this, that, and the other, these so-called world-class players at one point or another. And they are on the bench for Madueke or Nicholas Jackson, who, for all intents and purposes, certain people might not necessarily rate as highly. And they are being benched by a manager who was Pep Guardiola's big boy and has very little respect or stature in the game. That's my thing. How long is this going to keep going before certain players who are on a lot of money decide to go, fuck it, no, I'm not having this? Because all it takes is for a couple of bad games from Madueke, because the novelty of being really good at dribbling and missing chances wears off very quickly. It wears off very fucking quickly, I can say, because that was my big gripe with Diaz, and I don't have a gripe at the minute because he's scoring goals. The moment he goes on a spell again where the goals stop coming in, the novelty very quickly wears off. So if Madueke goes 6, 7, 8 games without a goal,
Yeah.
it turns. But if this
But
is
it
my
turns,
point,
but that's what they have. They have
Yeah, but
Sancho.
Tom,
but
turns
it's,
to
That's
what?
Sancho.
Because will they not just play Sancho or Neto or Cole Palmer out on the right? That's the whole
Well,
idea.
yeah,
isn't
who
it?
can Felix
They're
can play
covered
out there,
enough-
and Nkunku
yeah.
can play out there, bro.
They've
I
covered
just
themselves for
don't
the purple
see-
patch and injuries 100% with the amount of additions that they've made in certain areas.
I just don't see the squad makeup that Chelsea have necessarily working, because I think they have tried to do a thing where everyone's on the same playing field, everyone's on the
Mhm.
same sort of stature, bar Palmer for
Okay,
obvious
I get
reasons.
your point. I get
Everyone's
your
on the
point.
same level, when in reality,
Yeah,
no,
point.
certain players are better, certain players are
Yeah.
worse, and
Name-
certain players' egos will
I get
be
his
fucking
point
thrown
Name-
out.
now. He's saying
Mo,
Sancho
name
name
another club that's operating like this that's successful.
Brighton.
No, hold on. I actually
But in
believe
terms of success for their
they aren't
size, I think.
successful. They aren't successful.
Well, they for their size, I think they are, because actually you'd presume that they would have got relegated a number of times.
But
And they
for
managed
you,
to.
it's not. My point, I think, to answer
Why am I
this
not shocked that Brighton's the club model that Chelsea have used?
Because Whit Stanley's one of our sporting directors, and it's where he came from and where he's found his education as a director.
And that is my point to answer Joe's question. I actually genuinely think that Chelsea board have two plans and two roads working together. They buy the players to flip for profit, and they still buy Netos. They still go and get Felix. They went after Osimhen. They buy Enzo. They buy Caicedo. They bought Palmer to play for the team. I don't think the other guys will ever might play. There is a guy that named people keep saying there's a guy that Chelsea bought called Fofana. I never seen this guy play football for Chelsea other than one preseason last season. He was sold, right? There is what's his name? Ian Madsen.
No, we
Yeah,
haven't sold him
into
yet,
France.
Mate. He's
No,
still there.
So he went into France.
Datro Fofana is still at Chelsea.
Yeah, he's still there.
But my point, okay, good. But they were trying to sell him. To answer Joe's question, that there is two models here. There is a model flip for profit, and that's why they have 45 players.
But
There's a
they
model
stated
for-
that when they came in, they said there would be two separate budgets, one for signing players that they believe were of absolute quality, and one for players that they believe would be probably for football trading is probably the right term to use.
And if you're looking at the football, and yesterday, Dan, I was Hamza went on an Al-Ahwa. Chelsea haven't upgraded. No, they have. They had Kai Havertz, Timo Werner, Pulisic, Hakim Ziyech. They definitely have upgraded.
Respect Havertz, please.
Right. In the midfield, Jorginho is 32 years old. Kanté played 10 games for Chelsea in the last season. Kovacic, for them, couldn't be consistent for them and couldn't play because he was injured all the time. They had to get rid of him at some point.
Well, we haven't upgraded our midfield. Our midfield is nowhere near midfield.
But I know you are talking about Kante and Kovacic. But if you look at Kante and Kovacic, I think you upgraded. I think Caicedo is better than Jorginho, with all due respect.
No, I haven't seen Caicedo be better than Jorginho for Chelsea.
Oh, come on now.
I haven't seen Enzo Fernandez apparently was the reason Jorginho left Chelsea, and Enzo's not anywhere near.
Yeah, Enzo's a bum. Enzo's a bum for the money he was bought.
I feel for him in the way that Maresca's profiled him as well, because I definitely don't see him as an attacking 8 or a 10 as what Maresca's
or a 6. Or a box.
Yeah, well, I probably see him as yeah. I kind of agree with you on that. I feel like
he doesn't suit the Premier League. By the way, you're cutting out a little bit. Is it only for me or for everyone?
No, it's
to
for
me as
everyone.
well.
Oh, okay. I feel like he just doesn't suit the Premier League without being carried by another player that can do his physical work.
And there we are.
I said that many times. And also there is another thing about Enzo Fernandez. He's too slow to make decisions. And Crystal Palace clicked that in the second half right away. The moment he got the ball, they were roughing the guy, knowing that he's too slow.
He's the first to press.
He was the guy to press.
If you set up a team, because he doesn't, like you said, he doesn't turn and pass. He needs time to pass the ball, right? And if he's got time to pass the ball, he's fantastic. And there's times where he's done first-time passes. I mean, you can always find examples of people doing things, right? But he's the person you press. And I always said this when he first joined, and I thought there's the walk-up hype, which is a thing, and I always go back to El Hadji Diouf. It's a great example of someone who performed fantastically in the walk-up, and then we saw him in the Premier League, and he was not the player that anyone thought he was. Sorry, Tom. But you take someone like Fabregas, who the theory of Enzo is another Fabregas in people's heads. What Fabregas could do with no time to react, and he was a slow guy. He wasn't the fastest player on the pitch, but what he can do
Yeah, but
And that's what you think. That's what people think Enzo should be able to do. And the reality is now it's showing. We've now had
I think
almost 2
Fabregas
years.
knew the next pass before he received the
Exactly.
ball. I don't think Enzo knows that. He
Exactly.
thinks after. But anyway, I want to move on from Chelsea because we'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be a roller coaster. I think Arsenal. I know we spent an hour and a half talking about other topics, but for Arsenal, I actually want to hear Joe's opinion. Biggest Rice fan on the planet.
No, I do like Declan Rice. Listen, I don't know what the general consensus is on this, but I think that Arsenal fans need to relax because it was a second yellow. So I don't know if that's a hot take, a wild take.
He shouldn't have put the referee in a position to make a decision.
He's nudged the ball. He's tried to be really, really sly with it in a way that engineers the defender to come and kick him and get him booked. Ultimately, yeah, you reap what you sow. He deserved the second yellow. I like that. That's how it is. So there we go.
I want to hear
doesn't
Logan's opinion as well. I
It
want to hear
doesn't help
Logan's
as well, just real quick. It doesn't help as well that the first tackle was like an orange card because that one, when you first watched it, it was like, oh, he's went in a bit rough there. I feel like he was on eggshells at that point anyway, and then, like I said, you can't be making stupid decisions like that in games like Brighton, who are a team that can punish you. They've had a really good start to the season. That fucking Haresler, who's come from St. Pauli or whatever, he's been really good as their manager. I like a lot of what he's done, but yeah, you just can't.
Did you see how he speaks as well to the media? Very composed and calm, and
you just can't.
But
you can't give the referee the chance to make the decision because we all know the referees aren't good. They're not good. So don't try and put them in a position to make that. Bear in mind, it's not a red card because it wasn't a red card. It was a yellow card. He had 2 yellows. That was why he was sent off. He wasn't red carded for kicking the ball away. That's the difference.
Do we all agree, though, he did? It wasn't an accident. Like, he kicked the ball away, which then brought in the challenge.
Before I go to Nobbins, Kingsley here, always with the sarcastic super chat. In the end, folks, Chelsea are going to get relegated. That's sarcastic comment. I know Kingsley. He's always sarcastic.
Do you know what?
But anyway,
there's
another super chat. Go ahead.
Can I just say on that? Like, people sometimes, like, a criticism, sometimes you got to be able to just take it as it's looking at what we've seen from the outside by your club. It's not saying you're crap or you're going to get relegated. And sometimes as a fan, you have to be willing just to go, some fair points are being made about my team. And as an Arsenal fan, I've had to learn about that in terms of when we're in a banter era, and I was always fighting back. And after a point, I was just like, actually, it's true. So sometimes just like some people are seeing things and you just have to take it.
Jay Gooney here is saying Chelsea have the problem of too many chiefs in the kitchen, spoil the broth, no hierarchy in their attack, mismatch profiles, tough job for a manager. It's exactly what Tom is saying. Too many similar players, all at the same level. There is no starter.
You need a hierarchy. You need to know that these guys are the guys, and you're the understudy, and you've got to work.
It's Salah and Harvey Elliott, Salah and Ben Doak, like Trent and Conor Bradley.
You can have it in a multitude of positions as well. It's not just the attack; it's the midfield as well. And like right back's going to be a really interesting one to watch because Reece James is the captain. But for all intents and purposes, the last 2 years, Malo Gusto's been better because he's played more, and when he's been on the pitch, he's not been getting stupid red cards. So that's another one which is going to be interesting to watch with the hierarchy. I just feel like Chelsea as a football club was always a club where player dynamics where players were given a lot of power and had a lot more power in terms of the dynamics of the football club. And right now, I feel like it could be a tipping point. I might be wrong, and Maresca might really have it under control, but I feel like it could just be a tipping point in the season with so many egos in a dressing room and a guy who we don't have much knowledge on if he can control them.
Going back to Arsenal, I want to hear Nobin's opinion about a couple of things, Nobin. You do tactical analysis a lot. Couple of things, couple of questions. The red card, number one. And the second, should Arsenal have dropped that deep when they were 1-1 at home against a team like Brighton?
The first thing I want to say is that just on the red card and the decision, I think that the biggest issue with that decision is the fallout from it, and that's now becoming the main talking point because it's always going to be. But the reality is that I thought Brighton deserved to be level with Arsenal before the red card. Arsenal were not particularly good before that red, and no one's talking about this. The first 15 minutes were good because Brighton weren't able to deal with Arsenal when Brighton had the ball, and obviously Saka was up against a 19-year-old midfielder who was playing at left back. So obviously that's going to be a thing. When Milner went down, Brighton changed it, and they changed their in-possession structure. And all of a sudden, Arsenal's midfield was ridiculously exposed. It happened over and over again where Partey kept getting dragged out because João Pedro would drop deep into Brighton's left half space area, and it would split the midfield of Rice and Partey. And so many times Brighton would just like play like a horizontal ball, and then I think Partey would like try to trigger a press, and then it's one ball through, and it bypasses the entirety of Arsenal's midfield. Now, it didn't necessarily lead to a direct shot or a direct action, but it put Brighton in a tricky position and forced them to defend. Again, and then when it came to Brighton defending, it required a terrible error from Dunk for Arsenal to score, and they capitalised very well. Of course they did, but following that tactical change by I can't recall who the Brighton manager is. I apologise. Arteta's Arsenal once again struggled against a team who presented them with a mid block, like Aston Villa did. They did not create anything thereafter. And for the remainder of the first half, Brighton were the better team. That would be my main. If I was an Arsenal fan, that would be my main issue. Is we've needed a mistake to score, and we struggled with them when they made the tactical change. That's the first thing to say. The second thing to say for me is that going to your defensive point, I don't know why it took Arteta 10 minutes to make that change and to bring Calafiori on. Like, surely...
He just left him exposed.
I can answer this. No, I can answer this. No, but just quickly, he actually, because of the versatility of Kai Havertz from last season, he thought I still can play the 4. And Kai Havertz can slot in that middle for Declan Rice, and I can still have Trossard or Martinelli and Bukayo Saka running behind. He just went to be, I'm going to have Kai Havertz play 2 roles, the midfielder and also the guy that continue behind Saka. That is the versatility. That is the reason why.
And
it was very obvious, by the way, because he pointed
to
Kai Havertz. He pointed to Kai Havertz to drop for Declan Rice right away after the record. Right.
And also, before you continue, Nobis, as well. I mean, if you had just straight away said, right, defender on, striker off, the mentality straight away will turn into we just have to drop all the way back into 18-yard box.
But that was the mentality anyway, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that happened naturally as opposed
to that was
your
mentality.
But that was, I'm saying that happened naturally because they started to attack more as opposed to just saying defender on, everyone just drop back straight away, which is slightly different.
Doesn't it make more sense to preserve your lead?
I think they'd have broken us down regardless. I think they'd have just broken.
But they were in control, weren't they? Yeah. That is the point. You're at home. Me and you spoke about this. Can I ask Tom a question? If Liverpool go 1 man down at home, are you expecting your team to cave? 1-1, and you're going for the title. Are you expecting your team to cave?
I don't think Arsenal caved. I don't think Arsenal caved though, because they had the best chance in the second half when Kai Havertz got sent
on counters. You didn't expect Arsenal to try to play from the back instead of hoofing the ball forward, hoping that Kai Havertz will get it?
No, because it's a different game. Like that.
So you agree with them?
Right. I don't necessarily disagree with what Arteta did, because it should have worked out if Kai Havertz could just score a 1v1. If Kai Havertz puts that 1v1 on the back of the net, all of a sudden you're talking about Arteta smashed it. He didn't, and now the whole narrative is Arsenal should have went for it. If Arsenal go for it, and it all of a sudden ends 2-1 Brighton, that's another point dropped. It's better to know what's best to keep what you've got than risk losing it all at this point. And I've got the thing that shocked me was the goal from Brighton. That was a weird fucking thing between Saliba and Gabriel.
It was Partey's fault. It was really Partey's fault. He got dragged down, created the space.
It's irrelevant whether it's Partey's fault or not. Saliba's tracked the man all the way and then moved away the last second. Gabriel has half-arsed the fucking challenge and then ended up like on the floor afterwards. And then Joao Pedro, because of all the sort of half-arsedness of it, as a practically open net to tap into. That's the sort of stuff which it just caught me off guard because I didn't expect it. Like Saliba's been so good, and then for that goal, it just looked very weird watching him do what he do. Like you said, it might have been due to Partey, but again, we know Thomas Partey's legs are gone, so he can't cover the ground, which is another reason why entrusting Kai Havertz to cover the gap. I agree that the sub should have been made earlier because Kai Havertz isn't that. You lost your best ground coverer in Declan Rice, and then you tell Kai Havertz to make up the ground when I don't even think Kai Havertz is a great ground coverer in himself.
He did well though. I mean, when you look at actually he was the main outlet when the ball went up, and he surprisingly ran really well with the ball. So I could see. Kai
Havertz is a good outlet. He's tall. He knows how to use his body well, and he should have won the game for Arsenal.
Well, Saka's not been like
and the follow up
3 inches longer. Yeah,
that tactic worked for Arsenal. Like we're creating the chances. The bigger problem, and I think the bigger concern for Arsenal should be, why was it only 1-0?
Yeah,
why when the red card happened was it only 1-0? Because they created a number of chances. Saka there was a really nice one where Odegaard had the ball and sort of like lifted it over Hinchelwood and Saka ran onto it on the volley, put it straight to the keeper. Arsenal should have had that game out of sight by the time Declan Rice got sent off. It should have been 2 or 3. I think at the end of the first half, Brighton had like 0.08 XG. Like Arsenal had the run of things first half. The fact it was only 1-0, that was the concern. And then I do think I think Arteta got caught in two minds at 1-0 up with 10 men. I think he should have made the change right then and there because you have to keep what you've got. You have to keep what you've got.
Let me. I want to do a couple of these super chats because they are related to what we're talking about. Andrew here is saying, bigger people can't wait to move into my flat. I'm very tired with work and sorting out my flat. Can't even think about beating United at the moment. Thank you, Andrew, for supporting the channel. Good luck moving your flat. I know you have been doing this for a bit now, and you told me. Big up for supporting the channel always. GMB here is saying, more credit goes to Veltman. He instigated the spectacle to put Cav on spot Kavanagh. If no hack on Rice, no way the referee pulls out the card for anyone. Did anybody give credit to Veltman here?
No, I don't think like, yeah, sorry, my dog's in the background. I don't think he went and kicked him purposely to get the referee's attention. I think that was a byproduct of, like, obviously Rice has nicked the ball and he's got he's gone to pass it. So I don't actually think that he was going to kick Rice. I think if you got center for that, I'd have been a bit like, this is a soft one because he's clearly gone for the ball and the ball's moved, right?
The ball has moved,
what he's doing.
yes.
Veltman
knew exactly what he was doing, yes. But Declan Rice should have the experience enough not to kick the ball out.
Exactly.
Move away.
What I was going to say, though, was this, right? And this is on the red card. I agree as well. It was a red card. I think I said it was Saturday. It was the same thing. It was a red card. My issues with the ref was that it felt like he went by the law as opposed to refereeing the game, right? And the great refs that we've seen in the past, so you look at, like I've said, Pierluigi Collina, right? He would have pulled both of them to the side and given him a stern talking to and said, both of you, you've done something stupid. If you do that again, I'm going to send someone off. Or would have pulled like the captain and said something like that, right? And I think sometimes the problem with refs that we have right now is that I think they're so scared of getting things wrong, they're now just going by the law. Because also, I mean, everyone talks about was it Pedro who kicked the ball away and didn't give a yellow card, right? So he should, if he'd gone by the law, he'd have booked him as well. And I think maybe an element of that was on his mind, but I don't really think that. I think the game just.
And by the way, I went back to check the Pedro thing. Joao Pedro kicked the ball when it went out with him, right? But the referee didn't whistle. So at that time, by the law, you can, because you know that referees don't go into players' intentions. Because Joao Pedro could have said one thing. Well, I thought the ball was still in play and I just kicked it.
Apparently,
by the way, this is not my explanation. A referee explained that because there is no whistle, the ball is not dead yet. And because Joao Pedro can't see the linesman pulling his flag up, because he was behind him, there is no way to go to his intentions. I hope that explained why, by the law, Joao Pedro wasn't a yellow card. But by the moral of the game, and we know, and because we are seeing, it was a yellow card. He kicked the ball. We know that he knew it went out and he kicked the ball. But the law doesn't say that the referee will give him a yellow card. Because
didn't Saka throw the ball away at some point in the second half as well? He didn't give him a yellow card. I mean,
throwing the ball to them is not an offense.
It was dissent, though, isn't it? That's the point.
No, he threw the ball to them.
The point. Sorry, Tom, I'll let you go. The point I'm still making though is that, like, what we want from referees is common sense refereeing, right? Where yes, you've got the law, you apply the law, but within that, you have to referee the game. And I think that we're getting to a point right now where it's almost becoming too black and white, where and that's why we don't, in a sense, that's why we always have this issue, discussions about whether something is right or wrong, because we're not seeing the process of a referee refereeing the game and saying, like, lads, this is the situation, this is what I'm going to do. And that's where, for example, I mean, I read a ref who, I've forgotten who it is now. He talked about the what happened the weekend. He said that it was a ridiculous decision to send off Rice because the ball was rolling, etc., etc. He went to his reasons, but it didn't feel like he was reffing that situation, and that for me is the only issue. But Rice should be sent off. He did something that put the. Sorry, let me just finish. He did something that put the decision into the referee's hands, and once you do that, it can go two ways, whether it goes your way or goes the other way, and it went the other way this time.
Let me just, before we go on, I need to do this, Tom. Let me just, you guys have set the precedent now. Rice engineered development to kick him, genuinely hilarious. Brighton didn't have a shot on target before the red card, 0.08 XG. That's for Nobbins, actually.
Well, but point still stands, Ari, bypassing the midfield over and over and over again, when Arsenal are supposed to be, and indeed are, one of the best defensive sides in the world. But you've got your midfield duo of Partey and Rice getting caught out in midfield at least 4 times in that first half alone, and then you add on to that the fact that, again, pre-Milner injury, post-Milner injury, Arsenal didn't create anything. They relied on a cataclysmic error, and they weren't actually able to create anything once the Brighton manager made the changes. That's the point I was making.
I think just on the point earlier, so the throwing the ball away stuff and the asking the referee compared to what Rice done, it's 2 separate things. So Rice got done for delaying the restart. All the other stuff's dissent. They're refereed differently. Whether you would think they should or shouldn't be, because it's 2 separate areas, they're refereed differently. And the reason why Joao Pedro's one wasn't a yellow card is because he was deemed to have not delayed the restart because there was no Arsenal player close enough to grab the ball and to take a quick throw in. There was an Arsenal player near enough when the ball went out of play, according to their standard.
I don't think so. John here is saying Brighton weren't close to doing anything until the red. I think Nobbins explained that, John, that it's not only about being close to the goal, it was about bypassing the midfield.
I mean, Brighton had more possession in the first half, and they were getting into Brighton's problem was just getting the shots off. They were getting into the dangerous areas. They were just not getting the shots off in time.
I think with Arsenal's defending, that's a repeated pattern. I always say that. I'm always annoyed when Arsenal concede a shot because teams get close to the box, but never seem to get shots away. So it kind of, if you're watching the Arsenal game, it kind of feels that way most of the time.
Kenna here is saying Nobbins is so wrong. Arsenal gave Brighton sterile position, but was very comfy. Brighton XG was 0.8 before the red card. Typical case of result-based analysis. 3 games in, we will see.
Sorry, can I say something on XG? So for everyone likes to quote XG. XG is the quality of the chance, right? And so I always use the example. A very low XG is Messi shooting from outside the box on the right-hand side. Like, if you go by any statistician, they'll say that's a low percentage shot that will go in. And so you tell your defender, it doesn't matter. But anyone who knows Messi knows that you put him in that position, he's going to score. So sometimes we look at XG and we try to explain the game using XG. There's other factors that goes into XG. So, yeah, I mean...
Kevin De Bruyne from 20 yards, open goal. That is a low XG, but I would bet 8 times out of 10, Kevin De Bruyne would put that top ends.
XG doesn't factor in
Mohamed Salah on the left side.
Exactly.
Mohamed Salah on the left side, curler, you would bet that he would put that in. But on the explanation, it's a low XG.
XG is a model based on an average player. We are in the Premier League. 99% of players are better than the average player.
Exactly.
Therefore, XG, you have to understand the context of XG to measure it and to play its relevance. Yes, Brighton had 0.08 XG in that first half. One of them was the header from Minter, I think. Like that weird one where he just sort of sprinted to it when it was close to the edge of the box. Another one was a Matoma shot from a tight angle. That Matoma shot was worth about 0.02 XG. I actually think Matoma shooting from that position is a little bit more dangerous than 0.02 in terms of the overall quality he has as a footballer. That's where you've got to factor it in.
I actually think this is the best explanation ever of XG now. Even I got educated on XG by this explanation. By that word that Tom said, XG is based on your average player shooting or your average player. But most of the time you'll have Odegaard shooting, or you'll have De Bruyne shooting, or Haaland from outside. Like the goal that Haaland scored with the left foot. I'm like, that's definitely a low XG, but he put it to the corner. That's the quality.
You want to know why Haaland outperforms his XG? Because he's not an average player, but he gets judged by average player. Therefore, it's the same with Son. Son is a world-class finisher, and XG calculates him as an average finisher. This is
why when you see XG, try to explain how a game goes, and especially when you use the top teams. Like yesterday, there was something like Man United had a better XG than Liverpool, and it's like, well, I bet you if you said put Mo Salah give Mo Salah a 0.05% chance of scoring, he probably will still bury that chance, right? Put Darwin Núñez in a 1% chance of scoring, he'll probably still miss it. Or 1, which is 100% basically, he'll probably still miss it. So it comes down to
if you want to use our game yesterday, the Xerxes big chance that he had from about 5 yards out the header, which he put straight to Alisson. If that was Diogo Jota in that situation, the XG is worth exactly the same.
Exactly.
But you would back Diogo Jota to score that header.
Exactly.
More than you would back Joshua Xerxes to, because he's a better player. But XG, because it is just a mathematical, statistical analysis, cannot.
You put Leeds players in these positions, they don't score. You put Man City players, they score. It's simple. It's very simple.
Do you know what it is a good barometer of, though, is if over a period of time you're losing games, but XG is showing it different, then it's a case of this will eventually land. You know what I mean?
XG averages out because you
over
have
the course of a
above
season.
average and below average.
Exactly,
XG typically always averages out.
One solitary game, it's no more than
you guys know that I never heard this explanation before from anyone.
Oh, there you go.
All of you.
I could have told you before, but also as well, the good thing about XG.
But you didn't, did you? Did you?
You never asked me. I'd have told you loads of times. But as well, the other thing
I think Mo's just more shocked. I knew it.
The other thing as well is.
I know you're a knowledgeable fan.
Can I please say?
I know everyone. That's why it's the Rational League.
Jesus Christ, I'm joking. No, the other thing as well is with XG.
I didn't know that Olo knows it.
Jesus Christ. No, I was going to say if you're looking at XG, you could from a coaching standpoint, you look at it and say, okay, what's the volume of quality chances we're creating, right? And that's where it becomes interesting, because you can say, actually, are we creating enough quality chances over a period of a season versus actually are we getting low percentage chances? So XG actually comes from basketball, where they do enough analysis of where players shoot from. And so again, it's the Americanization of some of our sports. But
and Mo, you disrespect how good Brighton is in position by insisting Arsenal a man down should dominate position. I don't agree. I'm gonna repeat this again, okay? I hold Arsenal to this standard. I promise you I would have the same exact analysis and criticism if this is Manchester City or Liverpool. I'm gonna have the same exact thing. It's not because of Arsenal. It's because I expect the likes of Manchester City, Liverpool, and Arsenal to, even against a team like Brighton, to have a better control of the game, even as a man down. Even as a man, I know how good Brighton are, but that was you just been pinned back. And that was maybe by design. And it might have worked because you had chances. But I expect Arsenal to have a little bit of more control. I think there's people misunderstand what I'm saying here. John here is saying, if we're going by the rules, Welbeck should have been given a yellow because he went to the referee and saying it's a yellow. Now we're picked.
Again, that was what I explained earlier. That's dissent. That's refereed differently to delaying a restart.
Mo, could you bring up the other super chat? Because I think it was addressed to me, so I'd like just respond to it.
Okay. It was addressed to you.
Yeah. So sterile possession points. Well, if your midfield is getting done 3 or 4 times in one half of football, I'd argue that by definition that's not sterile, and that is dangerous. Just because it didn't lead to necessarily a shot, because maybe Brighton don't have the elite forwards or creators. I think that's still, from a systematic standpoint, an issue. I would be concerned with that if I was an Arsenal fan. We've discussed the XG situation, and it's actually the opposite of results-based analysis, because I was in isolation talking about the first half of which Arsenal won. So it's sort of the opposite.
Go on, Nobbins. Mic drop in the bin. Boom. Love it. Sorry.
Anyway, people, listen, before we go on, everyone's channel here is in the description, people. Tom Little, Nobbins, of course, and Joe, and Dan, and Rory, who couldn't be here today, but we had Olu with us. Hopefully we'll be here next time as well. And Joe's channel is in the description. He's a Leeds fan, but has a lot of shows about the Premier League. There's a lot of watch-alongs, arguably one of the best watch-alongs on the internet. You can actually do that with Joe. His watch-alongs are absolutely elite. Nobbins does the tactical analysis of Manchester City games and the big games. Absolutely
I'm also going to do the
phenomenal.
Arsenal game, by the way. I want to do the Arsenal-Brighton game as well.
So something that I promise you won't see on any other channels. High-tech, Sky Sports style, NBC style, tactical boards, everything is on Nobbins' channel. Just go and subscribe. And Tom Little just talk. He's just a knowledgeable football fan.
I occasionally pull up a website which has a tactical board on it, and you get my analysis. That's very few and far between now. Normally you just get me with a beard in hand talking about how fucking good we are and how crafty Az is.
But also, we know he knows XG, which is absolutely brilliant.
And Dan as well. Dan does a daily shows now for Chelsea, watch-alongs for Chelsea. So go and support Dan if you guys are Chelsea fans. And Rory talks football. I'm not sure he's going to be live today at 6:30, but he normally every day he's live at 6:30. Rory, Arsenal fan, of course. Great shows from Rory every day. Very informative about Arsenal. Game-going fan, of course. And this will take us to Football Terrace, top 6. Tom will be there to shit on Terry. We know that for sure. That's going to be hilarious and
that one in last night.
Yes.
I've got one last
the first one who said, I'm available tomorrow.
I've got one last thing to say. So I've sent over some B samples for the Man City team, the drug test. So in a few weeks' time, Arsenal win in the league.
How it goes. I think even if Arsenal don't win the league, it will be Liverpool. But listen, people, we'll see you in the next episode. We're out of here, people. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, all.
See ya.